It's 5:59 a.m. on August 30th, 2023, and my outside correspondent Amy is running. More specifically, she's running late. Even more specifically, she's running late to running. That's because at 6 a.m. at Thomas A. Edison Technical High School in Jamaica, Queens, 14 runners are going to set off on the longest certified foot race in the world. And if Amy isn't there to film it, I'm not giving her healthcare this year. Good, she made it. Enjoy that primary care. The race in question is the Sri Chimnoy Self-Transcendence 3100-mile race, and while a 3100-mile or 4,989-kilometer race could go from roughly the Taj Mahal to the Suez Canal, or from this Domino's Pizza in West Lafayette, Indiana to this Domino's Pizza in Juneau, Alaska, this particular race goes from this corner in Queens to this corner in Queens, and then this corner in Queens, and back to this corner in Queens, then does that again 5,648 more times, alternating direction daily. Yep, the longest foot race in the world goes round and round a single block in New York City from 6 a.m. to midnight every day for 52 straight days, and people do it willingly, even repeatedly. This year's competitors include 6 first-timers, but the other 8 have run the race a collective 40 times already. But why does this exist? How does this exist? Turns out the answers are right there in the name. The Sri Chimnoy Self-Transcendence 3100-mile race. The last bit's pretty self-explanatory, unless you're from some godforsaken land like Europe and break into hot sweats whenever you see the word mile. But for a moment, let's spend some time with Sri Chimnoy, the race's founder and namesake. Sri Chimnoy was a spiritual teacher/guru who was born in what's now Bangladesh in 1931. The 3100-mile distance was chosen in honor of that year, something you might have put together as soon as you heard it, but which Amy had to ask a race organizer. In 1964, Sri Chimnoy moved to Queens, New York, near the current site of the run, and lived there until his death in 2007. He was a musician, a visual artist, a writer. He had a devoted following for his teachings on world peace, true happiness, and, of course, self-transcendence, and he was a big advocate for reaching spiritual enlightenment by doing ludicrous levels of physical activity. Over the course of his life, one of his great passions was lifting. Sometimes super heavy stuff like planes and elephants, but often, for some reason, notable people. And it's a fascinating list. He picked up over 8,000 people, including 20 Nobel laureates, Nelson Mandela, Eddie Murphy, Yoko Ono, Richard Gere, and once a Republican and a Democratic congressman at the same time, thus ending partisanship in the United States. Now, I'm not going to wade into the waters of claiming his following is or isn't a cult, mostly because they were extremely nice to Amy at the race, and she has the journalistic integrity of a parrot. But I will say that accounts exist of some, let's say, cult-like energy in Chimnoy's teachings and followings, including at least one claim that he held a contest among his followers to see who was the, quote, ugliest girl, which doesn't strike me as a very self-transcendent thing to do. Setting that aside, the idea behind all the extreme athleticism stuff is that, according to Sri Chimnoy, human beings have a limitless potential, and overcoming a physical challenge, like, say, running the distance from Santa Fe to Hawaii, will force yourself to transcend your so-called limits and access that immense spiritual power within yourself. And as lovely as that sounds on a metaphysical level, it's pretty brutal on a regular physical one. That, presumably, is why all runners need to take out travel insurance to enter the race. Runners' feet take a beating, with many of them having to take the toe box or heels out of their running shoes just to take some of the pressure off. And speaking of running shoes, a runner who completes the race will burn through anywhere from 12 to 20 pairs of them before it's over, which makes sense given the hard concrete running surface and the fact that most running shoes are meant to last a few hundred miles max. To finish the race, you need to average about 60 miles or around 96 kilometers per day, which, no surprise, takes a lot of energy. You need to consume about 10,000 calories daily, which in many ways sounds like a dream. I worked out how I'd want to do it for what it's worth. But if you're running for 18 hours a day, hitting that target is a logistical challenge. There's barely enough downtime to get that much fuel down your gullet, which is why you can often spot competitors downing snacks while they run. Because yes, as much as this race is a spiritual and physical challenge, it's also a practical one. There's a whole support staff on site to help runners survive the race, plus individual helpers for each runner. They have tents just past the counting station where they prepare meals, drinks, and snacks, repair shoes, help runners get medical attention when needed, all that. Every runner has their meals provided throughout the race, as well as a spot in a camper to eat, care for their feet, and sleep during the midnight to 6 a.m. rest periods. That said, you are technically allowed to run, walk, stop, start, and sleep whenever you want. So you can, as a non-hypothetical example, lay a towel on the sidewalk for midday power naps. And speaking of the sidewalk, I know it looks nice and clear in all the footage Amy got, but that was at 6 a.m. on a day with good weather. The race is 52 days long, and you can't exactly shut down a New York City sidewalk for 52 days, much less one around a school. So when school's in session, the sidewalks get crowded, and runners just have to weave around, which I'm sure gets really fun on bad weather days when both they and the other pedestrians are holding umbrellas. Something fun about the course being totally open to pedestrians is that if you wanted to sneak a cheeky lap, in theory, you totally can. But in practice, when Amy tried, she got winded after about half a block, then stopped to watch the daily 6:40 a.m. choir, though she would like me to note that some of us transcended our spiritual limits just by leaving the house at 5 a.m. But where Amy lacks the endurance to run the distance from the Eiffel Tower to another point under the Eiffel Tower, if you're watching this video before October 20th, the actual runners are still out there looping that block hour after hour. When Amy left, they had all run 3 miles, meaning they had about 3,100 left. So if you find yourself out in Queens, go give them a cheer, and maybe a snack. See, if you run the 3,100, you have support staff and helpers to prep your meals and snacks, but in your normal life, you have to do all that by yourself, which can get tedious. Unless you use this video's sponsor, HelloFresh. They make cooking just better. Each week, you select what you want to eat from tons of amazing recipes, then the next, an insulated box shows up on your doorstep with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients. You then skip a lot of the prep, get straight to the fun part of cooking, and soon enough, you have something delicious like this apricot, almond, and chickpea tagine. It was so good and way easier to make than you'd expect. This is just one of dozens of recipes HelloFresh has sent me that I never would have thought to make on my own, and it's a massive improvement over the nightly cup noodles or sad sandwiches I'd make if left to my own devices. It's just perfect if you're busy enough that you want to skip all the wasted time planning and grocery shopping, but still want the deliciousness and healthiness that home cooking provides. So if you want to give it a try, go to HelloFresh.com and use code 50HAI at checkout for 50% off plus free shipping. You'll be supporting this channel when you do, so thanks in advance.